Right now, he owes, I'm going to say in a short way, at least 80,000, if not 180,000.
Jim Jones and his podcast co-hosts went after 50 Cent's documentary work on air, and 50 Cent's affiliates made them pay for it.
Is it acceptable for someone to create a documentary about you without your approval? How would you feel if it happened to you?
What followed was not a diss track or a social media argument. It was a landlord partnership, leaked eviction footage, and a coordinated campaign that left Jones locked out of his own studio. This is how 50 Cent's affiliates smacked Jim Jones after he came for Gun It. Part 1, the podcast that started it all on February 19, 2026. Security footage surfaced online showing Jim Jones kicking in a locked door at his own podcast studio after the power had been cut and the locks had been changed. The footage was not leaked by a stranger. It was posted by 50 Cent, who had partnered with the building's landlord and claimed ownership of the property. In the days that followed, 50's affiliates, his business connections, the landlord himself, and even Cameron, Jones' own former Dipset teammate, all piled on. They posted eviction documents. They shared phone recordings. They mocked Jones for not being able to afford heat. The smack was not physical. It was financial, public, and coordinated, and it did not come out of nowhere. The whole thing started with a podcast episode 2 months earlier and a conversation about documentaries that 50 Cent took very personally. In December 2025, Jim Jones sat down with Mino Fabulous and Dave East on their podcast, Let's Rap About It. The topic drifted toward documentaries, whether it was acceptable for someone to make one about another person without that person's approval. Dave East posed the question. The answers that followed are what lit the fuse.
Definitely not acceptable. It's facetious and petty.
Right. It's like somebody putting out your tape.
3. The room agreed immediately. Jim Jones called it facetious and petty, and Mino compared it to putting out someone's tape without consent.
Without your permission.
And you're not an actual porno star.
And they do it.
The lighting wasn't good.
And the criticism kept going. The hosts zeroed in on the idea that someone would put unflattering footage out into the world without caring how it looked.
Trying to make you just look bad. Oh, they caught me on a bad day?
Right.
I wasn't even on my they caught a weak one.
The implication was not subtle. The group was not speaking in hypotheticals, or if they were, the timing told a different story. 50 Cent had just released Sean Combs' The Reckoning, a Netflix documentary series exploring allegations against the rapper. The Let's Rap About It crew saw it as exploitative. They called it a mockumentary. They questioned the motives behind it and framed the entire project as someone trying to weaponize a camera against someone else. The hosts escalated their displeasure with pointed language, making it clear that they saw something deeply wrong with the concept of making someone look bad through a documentary they did not authorize.
See that the lighting is dark?
Damn.
You see that the lighting is dark?
Got me looking small
Still
out
put
here.
this on the internet?
Word up.
Then Jones summed it all up with one line that would set the tone for everything that followed.
But I would feel.
I ain't gonna front. I think if they saluting you,
First of all, they want somebody doing it.
The frustration in the room was palpable, and the group leaned deeper into the idea that this kind of exposure was designed to damage someone's public image irreversibly.
I wanted to be a dope documentary.
It gotta be dope.
Showing who you are, what you've done,
Put out no bullshit
everything
on
you've
it.
accomplished. Like, a documentary is a big thing. Like, you don't want nobody doing a documentary about some trying to just make your whole character look weak like that.
7. Then Jones summed it all up with one line that would set the tone for everything that followed.
Trying to build it, but he won't sign the lease. He's like, I don't like these terms. I want like 6 months of build out and ridiculous bullshit.
The idea was simple. A documentary should honor you, not tear you down. Jones drove that point home with conviction.
We also have a partnership agreement where half of what he's building now, his media, belongs to us. But he won't tell us how much he's making and doing all these things. So half of the content he's creating, if you want to buy that too, I'll sell you half the company.
Now, whether Jones was talking about a documentary or speaking generally, that part is up for debate. Fabulous also chimed in questioning whether such a project was even legal, touching on concerns about defamation and the unauthorized use of someone's likeness. Mino would later clarify on Instagram that his comments were part of a broader discussion about documentaries in general and not a targeted shot at 50. But by then the damage was done. 50 Cent did not see it as general. He took it personally. And once 50 Cent takes something personally, what follows is never just words. He labeled the entire podcast crew as squatters and bums, alleging they owed up to $250,000 in unpaid rent for the very studio they recorded in. He reposted the clip on Instagram with taunts. He offered to buy the studio outright. He began dismantling the credibility of the people who had just questioned his. Mino fired back with personal insults on Instagram, warning 50 that if it's smoke, it's smoke. By Christmas Day 2025, the Let's Rap About It hosts had fired back with a squatter rights freestyle, dissing 50 over his own beats. A bold move that accomplished nothing other than giving 50 more ammunition. He was not done. Not by a long shot. What Jones and his co-hosts did not realize was that by questioning 50's documentary, they had opened a door that 50 Cent was about to walk through, lease documents in hand, the landlord tapes. The podcast criticism was one thing. What 50 Cent did next was something else entirely. Rather than simply trading bars or firing off Instagram captions, 50 went directly to the source of Jim Jones's studio space, the landlord, and he recorded the conversation in a move that fans and commentators would later describe as diabolical. 50 Cent shared an audio clip of a phone call with the owner of the building where Jim Jones and the Let's Rap About It crew had been recording. The landlord's name was Sam, and Sam had a lot to say about how their business relationship had deteriorated into something contentious and financially unsustainable.
He's like insane. To me, it's worth very little to nothing. But if it works out for you, I just throw that in as a sweetener. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is he signed a lease with me.
According to Sam, Jones had been operating inside the building under murky lease terms, demanding extensive build-out concessions and refusing to finalize the agreement that would have formalized everything. The picture that Sam painted was one of a tenant who wanted all the benefits of the space, with none of the obligations that came with it. But the financial entanglement went far deeper than rent disputes.
Right now, he owes, I'm going to say in a short way, at least $80,000, if not $180,000.
Though, the landlord was not merely a property owner collecting checks. He claimed a contractual stake in the podcast's media output. Half the content Jones was creating allegedly belonged to the building's owner as part of the original arrangement, and Jones, according to Sam, had refused to disclose earnings or cooperate with the terms of that partnership. The lack of transparency had apparently soured the relationship to the point where Sam was willing to sell that stake to a third party, specifically to the man feuding with his own tenant. Sam then offered to sell that media stake to 50 Cent as a sweetener. A detail that reveals just how thoroughly transactional the whole arrangement had become, and how little faith Sam had left in the business relationship working out. And then the landlord dropped the number that would dominate headlines for the next week and reshape how people perceive the entire Let's Rap About It operation. At least 80,000, possibly as high as 180,000. Other reports would later push that figure to 250,000. Whatever the exact amount, it painted a devastating financial picture of Jones's podcast operation, one that relied on a space its host allegedly could not afford. The irony was suffocating. The same crew that had just sat in that studio questioning 50 Cent's ethics apparently could not pay for the electricity to keep the lights on while they did it. 50 Cent did not just listen to this call privately. He posted it publicly. He tagged it. He captioned it with mockery. The message was unmistakable. While Jim Jones and his co-hosts were sitting in a studio questioning 50's documentary ethics, they could not even pay for the chairs they sat in. And for 50, this was not the climax. It was set up. Reports began circulating that 50 Cent had partnered with or outright purchased the building from Sam, escalating his position from provocator to property owner. He later posted, "Sam is my partner. I own the joint. Now you're going to fix every door you kick, or I'm going to kick your Jimmy." Whether this claim of ownership was fully verified or simply another layer of trolling did not matter. The perception was established. 50 Cent was the landlord now, and the footage that followed would be the eviction notice heard around hip-hop. The eviction footage. On February 19, 2026, 50 Cent posted something that none of his followers were expecting. It was not a diss track. It was not a meme. It was not even a caption with a clever punchline. It was security camera footage timestamped, hyphen, and profoundly humiliating. The footage showed Jim Jones and companions in a hallway outside the podcast studio, identified as IFC Film Studios. The lights were off, the doors were locked, the electricity had been disconnected. Jones struggled with one door, mentioned the power being cut, and eventually kicked in a second door to gain entry. Every moment was captured in crisp detail by the building's security cameras. The same cameras that 50 now appeared to have access to.
Yo, nah, this is getting disrespectful and hilarious at the same time.
50 Cent captioned the footage with calculated mockery. Damn, bro. This wouldn't happen if we was friends. Wanna be friends? I don't know. Let's rap about it. LOL. The Let's Rap About It callback to the podcast name was pointed, deliberate, and designed to twist the knife as deeply as possible to reinforce the narrative and eliminate any ambiguity about what had happened. 50 also posted an eviction notice addressed to Joseph Jones and IFC Management, LLC. The document cited a 15-day default notice that had expired on January 22, 2026, followed by a 5-day termination notice that expired February 17, 2026. By the time the footage was filmed on February 19th, the lease had already been terminated for 2 full days. The notice allowed Jones to retrieve personal belongings by contacting the landlord, but that was the extent of his legal access to the property. Social media reaction was instantaneous and overwhelming. Complex described the escalation as next level. Fans flooded comment sections with phrases like peak petty genius and noted how 50 had avoided physical confrontation entirely, replacing fists with financial leverage and surveillance footage. One commenter on X wrote that the feud will last for a lifetime. Others questioned how 50 even obtained the security camera access in the first place, calling it Big Brother energy. Some speculated that 50's partnership with the landlord had given him unfettered access to the building's entire surveillance system. The YouTube commentary channel All Urban Central broke it down in detail, framing the situation as a collision of old beef, business disputes, and social media spectacle that only 50 Cent could orchestrate. The host then set the scene with precision, acknowledging the duality of what viewers were watching unfold in real time.
I just want to know, how did 50 Cent get access to the camera? Because it's giving Big Brother.
The channel also highlighted the suspicious nature of 50's access to the security footage, raising the question that everyone was thinking about, but few could answer definitively.
Jim pulled up wearing what looks like the same outfit from the viral clip that started showing off martial art moves with Bruce Leroy in the back. Talk about show enough.
Contrast between the seriousness of an eviction and the absurdity of how it played out online was what made this moment so potent. 50 Cent had turned a landlord-tenant dispute into content, and he was winning the narrative war decisively. He followed up by giving Jones a deadline. Pay up by Monday or things would get worse. He shared more clips. He tagged more people. He kept the pressure sustained and relentless. Because for 50 Cent, humiliation is not a single event, but a sustained campaign designed to exhaust the target into silence or submission. Online commenters had a field day dissecting every frame of the footage. Some mocked Jones directly. One wrote, "From dip set to set," while another called the group Lobby Boys. Others noted the physical struggle with the door itself, writing, "Super thug grandpa doesn't even know how to kick a door." But the most cutting observation came from users who tied the footage back to the broader conversation about money and hip-hop, pointing out that these rap guys don't get money like they claim. The footage had done more than embarrass Jim Jones. It had challenged the entire image he had spent decades constructing. Jim Jones responds, and the roots of the rivalry. Jim Jones did not fire back with a press conference or a diss track. Instead, he posted a video on Instagram stories showing himself performing martial arts moves, chopping wood with a Bruce Lee poster in the background. The caption read, "Kung Fu Jim, no locked doors at all." It was a response designed to deflect without. admitting anything, and commentary channels took notice immediately.
It's almost like he's saying, y'all got jokes, but I'm outside and I'm good.
The analysis from All Urban Central highlighted how Jones avoided playing into 50's hands by refusing to engage on emotional terms and instead redirecting the energy.
And honestly, that's probably the smartest way to respond when 50 Cent is trolling you. Because once 50 gets a reaction, he wins.
The channel then explained why this mattered strategically, because the worst thing anyone can do when 50 Cent is trolling them is show that the trolling worked.
But if you troll back without looking emotional, yeah, now the internet starts debating who really won the round.
The host elaborated further on why the situation carried so much weight, tying it back to the years of accumulated tension that made every exchange between these two men feel loaded with history.
Jimmy was not a rapper then.
Right.
He was your man, like on the side, like in the side, just he was not a rapper at all.
Response, turning humiliation into content, was arguably the best available play. Because once 50 Cent gets a reaction, he wins. That is a pattern decades in the making. And it is precisely what makes the history behind this feud so critical to understanding what is happening now. The rivalry between 50 Cent and Jim Jones traces back to the mid-200s, when Gunna and Dipset represented two of New York's most formidable and commercially relevant hip-hop factions. The tension was not always direct. It simmered underneath overlapping rivalries, industry politics, and crew loyalty. But in 2007, everything changed in a way that neither side would ever fully recover from. That year, 50 Cent publicly dissed Coke Records, Jim Jones's label at the time, calling it a graveyard. During a Hot 97 interview, Cameron called in to defend it, sparking a direct beef between 50 and Cam. Meanwhile, Jim and Cam were not even speaking to each other. Dipe It was fracturing from the inside, and 50 Cent saw the opening with a predator's clarity. He invited Jim Jones and Jules Santana to perform at a Gunna show in September 2007. They did We Fly High, Cameron's own crew member performing at the Enemy's concert. For Cam, it was betrayal. For 50, it was strategy. Years later, 50 described exactly how he orchestrated the entire maneuver, laying bare the psychological calculation behind what many had assumed was a spontaneous moment.
When Ballin' took place, and I'm looking and I'm going, oh, he having a moment. That's the Lloyd Banks, it's Lloyd Banks thing. He wanted that.
50 recognized that Jones was having his first real commercial moment with Ballin' and understood what that moment meant to someone who had watched everyone else eat first for years.
He was watching them be that, like Mace be that and Cam be that, and looked at, and it was finally, he had one.
50 compared Jones watching his Dipset teammates shine to the hunger Lloyd Banks must have felt watching other Gunna members succeed. Jones wanted that level of solo recognition desperately, and 50 knew it.
And I just looked, and I knew, I just took the shot, Murder, to see, because I wasn't sure he was going to go for it. Mm-hmm. But I was like, we like Jimmy better than you anyway, Cam.
So 50 threw the bait, and Jones...
You got to watch to see how he responds. And then, when you see, he like, oh, he really like that. Give me this, give me Jimmy.
...was the weapon. It was not a compliment to Jones. It was a wedge driven between Jones and Cameron, designed to exploit insecurity and ambition simultaneously. It fed Jones the validation he had been craving while simultaneously disrespecting the man Jones was supposed to be loyal to.
Since I'm starting the year off at the top of your Explorer, are you not entertained?
50 watched Jones absorb the flattery and knew the play had worked. He saw the hunger, the eagerness, the willingness to cross a line that Cameron would never forgive, and he used it. That 2007 moment would define the next 2 decades of their interactions. A cycle of provocation, exploitation, and retaliation that has never fully stopped. The bigger picture, 50 Cent's beef machine, and what comes next. What happened with the studio footage was not an isolated incident. It was the latest chapter in a playbook that 50 Cent has been perfecting since the early 2000s. A sophisticated system of conflict that transforms every enemy into content and every beef into a business opportunity that feeds his ever-expanding media empire. His most famous template was established with Ja Rule and Murder Incorporated after surviving a 2000 shooting allegedly connected to their camp. 50 released Wanksta and Back Down, records that systematically dismantled Ja Rule's commercial standing while catapulting 50 into superstardom. That feud involved physical altercations, industry blacklisting attempts, and mixtape runs so devastating they caught Eminem and Dr. Dre's attention. The lesson 50 learned then was elemental. Conflict, when managed correctly, is the most powerful marketing tool in hip-hop. And unlike most people who learn that lesson, 50 Cent never forgot it. He has applied that lesson methodically over 2 decades. The Rick Ross beef, the Floyd Mayweather exchanges, the Thierry Marie legal saga. Each one followed the same architecture. Provoke, escalate, document, post, and let the internet do the rest while he sits back and watches engagement metrics climb. Fans on X have described him as the roast god and the best troll on the net. Billboard has written extensively about his role as hip-hop's perpetual narrator. Someone who aggravates foes while staying above the fray, never getting his hands dirty while his opponents scramble to respond. The Jim Jones saga represents the most sophisticated and ruthless version of this approach yet. Rather than diss tracks, 50 used property transactions. Rather than street confrontations, he deployed security cameras. Rather than subliminals buried in a verse, he posted lease termination documents with timestamps and legal language that left no room for misinterpretation. And the numbers tell a brutally lopsided story that explains why 50 can operate with such impunity. 50 Cent has sold over 30 million albums worldwide, held 3 #1 singles on the Billboard Hot 100, and built an entertainment empire through Gunnet Films, the Power franchise, and deals like the vitamin water sale that netted him $100 million. His estimated net worth in 2026 sits between $40 million and $100 million, depending on the source. Jim Jones, by contrast, peaked commercially with We Fly High in the mid-2000s, has released 7 solo studio albums with combined first-week sales that never exceeded 21,000 units after 2005 and carries an estimated net worth of $400,000 to $600,000. The financial disparity is not just a background detail. It is the entire battlefield. When 50 Cent offers to buy your studio and you cannot pay your own rent, the power dynamic speaks for itself without anyone having to say a word. Yet Jones has not disappeared. He responded to the eviction footage with the Kung Fu video, framing the entire situation as free promo for his brand. He later posted a walkthrough of his studio space, showing construction underway and positioning himself as an investor in a multi-purpose content creation facility rather than a man who had just been publicly humiliated on Instagram.
Oh, everybody want to put my business in the street. I'm going to talk to you about my business. Right now, I am in the second phase of construction.
That opening line acknowledged the attention without flinching from it, turning the narrative from victimhood to showmanship.
But in my mind, I was thinking of building like a little mart, but we'll see how that goes. Hold up though. I'll show you what we'll be doing. I'm building a multi-purpose content creation facility for media, fashion, music, and broadcast.
Jones walked through raw, unfinished spaces inside the building, showing boutiques, barbershops, and studios still being built out, framing the chaos as active progress rather than evidence of failure.
So all these those opportunities, they still be in work in the midst of us working. Still in the midst of construction.
Pointed to young creators still working in the space, despite the conditions, characterizing their presence as proof that opportunity matters more than comfort. That the vision was bigger than any single dispute with a landlord or a rival rapper.
What I'm trying to say is, I've been happy to be able to invest in myself and something that I know is going to help a lot of other people. I'm not building this facility for myself.
Jones also acknowledged the cold temperatures inside the building, a detail that 50 Cent and Cameron had both mocked relentlessly in earlier posts, with 50 once adding wind effects and captions to a clip of the crew bundling up. The fact that Jones addressed the conditions heat-in rather than pretending everything was fine showed a different strategy. Own the mess, redirect the narrative, and keep building.
Yes, it is a business move. That's why I invested in myself. But I'm building a facility for all creators.
Jones framed the entire venture as community-oriented, positioning the space not just as a podcast studio, but as an incubator for creators who lack resources.
I appreciate the promo. I love free promo, you know.
And he closed with the one line that captured his entire stance toward 50 Cent's onslaught. A refusal to acknowledge the damage while insisting that the attention itself was the prize.
So now the question is, did 50 Cent really expose Jim Jones, or did Jim Jones just turn 50 Cent's troll into viral content? Don't forget to drop in the comments who you guys think took this round, 50 Cent or Jim Jones.
Whether that response is enough remains an open question with no clear answer. Some reports indicate Jones wired over $200,000 to the landlord to resolve the matter, allowing him to stay and continue building. But 50 Cent has continued posting regardless, as though the financial resolution changed nothing about the public humiliation already inflicted. Cameron, Jones's former Dipset ally, also piled on during this period, mocking Jones's alleged financial woes and offering to send him money via Zelle for heating costs. Jones fired back at Cam, calling him soft and freaky, which only widened the circle of people taking shots. As of February 21st, 2026, no legal actions have been confirmed beyond mutual threats, and the situation remains active on social media, with both sides seemingly content to keep the fire burning indefinitely. The question all Urban Central posed at the end of their breakdown still hangs in the air unanswered and perhaps unanswerable. Interview number 33, that is the real question.